This is Mason Steele, and welcome to part 2 of my Rise of the Shadows Hearthstone set review. We're going to start off with the Druid cards. Take a look first at the new Legendary Keeper Steladris, as it's probably going to enable a lot of the things going on with the new set. It says, after you cast a choose one spell, add copies of both choices to your hand. It's a 2-mana 2/3. You probably don't want to play this on turn 2 unless you're feeling frisky. You're probably going to wait to combo with a cheap choose card like Wrath or Power of the Wild from the classic set. This might even synergize with some underplayed cards, underplayed to say the least, like Mark of Nature. We shall see. But yeah, this is going to enable a lot of things going forward with cards we're going to see today. Very strong card. It's going to fill your hand up completely full if it lives for multiple turns. You're probably going to save this guy until turn 3 to combo with at least one card, namely Crystal Power. 1 mana, choose one, deal 2 damage to a minion, or restore 5 health. You're getting 2 Holy Smites and a restore 5 health for later, which you can actually use for good things coming up. Dreamway Guardians, 2 mana, Druid spell, summon 2 1/2 Dryads with Lifesteal. Wow, you're getting a lot of stats here, and you're basically getting the Lifesteal for free here. And there are some things to do with lifesteal minions. We have a minor theme with Druid going on here. If you can restore 5 health. I mentioned Mark of Nature. If you put Mark of Nature +4 attack on one of these, well, you got to 5. So that might be something that actually happens in the new standard. This card overall very strong. Again, you're getting this lifesteal pretty much completely for free, and the card is good. Speaking of getting things for free, the 3 mana 2/5 Life Weaver has good stats, and it has an ability that's quite strong just thrown onto it. So it's a pushed card here. Whenever you restore health, add a random Druid spell to your hand. So if you can turn the curve the Dreamway Guardians into Life Weaver and you damage yourself for 2 already, well, you're getting 2 more cards, assuming the Guardians survived. That's kind of crazy, and you're getting a lot of stats, a lot of value just for playing 2 cards in a row, possibly. Crystal Stag, 5 mana 4/4 beast with rush as battle cry. If you restored 5 health this game, summon a copy of this. So here we see the first reason to play healing cards. Cards like Crystal Power get much stronger because of Crystal Stag, right? If you can play this on turn 5, it doesn't match up well against the new Mech Yeti, but in general, against aggro, this will turn the board back in your favor, and it might be important that you actually can heal for 5 before the turn 5. If you can't heal for 5 before turn 5, this card does get much worse. It is pretty good at any point in the game, but it's going to excel exactly on turn 5 to flip a board. Lucent Bark is the other Druid legendary. It's an 8 mana 4/8 taunt. It says Death Rattle go dormant, so it goes away, but it comes back if you can restore 5 health. So again, we have a use for our extra Crystal Power that we got from Keeper Steladris. Crystal Power in general gets better with this card. This is not a card you can win the game with, right? You're sacrificing some of the power of a card like Lich King, I guess, is the best example, even though you can't play Lich King. I guess Ironbark Protector, you're losing the 4 attack of it, but you're getting the Primordial Drake stats, which does leave standard, and you're losing the AoE, but if this can come back multiple times, aggro will be pretty sad. The issue with this card, and I think that's what's going to happen to it a lot of times, in fact, is it's going to get mind controlled by the new 6 mana mind control, summoning 4/5 from Priest. And it's a feels bad situation because they're Priest, they can heal themselves, play Zeliax, and actually activate his dormant status. So that's a feels bad man. Crystal Song Portal, Druid epic spell. It says discover a Druid minion, which is interesting. We'll talk about that. If your hand has no minions, you get to keep all 3. Wow, so that's a lot of value for 2 mana. And discovering a Druid minion alone is pretty interesting because you can get Silence. Druid, one of the only classes to have access to Silence in the classic set. You can get a huge taunt when you need to, and you can get a finisher card like Cenarius if you have a wide board already. Now, you can't play them together, but you could set that up for the future. This card wants to play with something like Mountain Giant to, any card that says draw 3. You're looking at Mountain Giant. Unfortunately, if you have Mountain Giant in your hand, well, you're not going to draw 3. Now, if you drew 3 and then top deck Mountain Giant, that could be pretty sweet. I could see these cards being played in the same deck. Not that hard to sculpt your hand or sculpt your deck, so at any point in the game, you have no minions, especially with new cards like Dreamway Guardians that combo so well with cards like Power of the Wild and Keeper Steladris, which needs to be in your hand, but it gets comboed out pretty early with some of those early cards like Wrath. So not that hard to sculpt your deck to have no big minions or no minions to make sure you can draw 3. Now, if you have 2 of these, it's going to be pretty hard to get them both to get the complete value. But if you can get 4 cards for 2 cards, that's a pretty good deal. Fluffy Squirrel Whisperer is the last Druid card we're going to look at today, and it's a pretty good one. It's a 1 mana 2/1 with the Death Rattle. Add 2 1/1 squirrels to your hand. So it might be the new Cobalt Librarian here for Druid. Think it's going to go into every Druid deck. Possibly every Druid deck is also going to play Mountain Giant because these cards synergize so well together. In the late game, this doesn't scale as well as the Librarian in the sense that what are you really doing with 2 1/1 squirrels in the late game? But going wide is always a thing for Druid. Your opponent does have to respect cards like Savage Roar at any point in the game. So I do think this is a must-play Druid card. Moving on to Hunter, where we have less total cards revealed, so it's a little bit harder to get a grasp on what exactly is going on. We're going to start with the legendary here, 7 mana Varessa Windrunner. It's a 5/6 with Battlecry. Equip the Star Spirit weapon with 2 damage, 3 durability weapon. When you attack, you get 2 spell power. Notably, only when you attack. They didn't want us to have the nice synergy with possibly Explosive Trap. Unfortunately, I think maybe for balance reasons, it had to be only when you attack. So what are you doing this? Are you possibly hanging on to your target removal that can go face, like Arcane Shot, Kill Command, maybe even Bomb Toss to save and go face? Kind of hard to save those kind of things for the late game. This is a little bit at odds with Zul'jin. Zul'jin wants you to play things that affect the board and can't go wrong. Cards like Aeon Companion. Whereas if you played a bunch of target removal and then you played Zul'jin, that might not work out in your favor, in fact. So interesting design here. I do like the design. I'm curious where it's going to go. Technically gives you a bit of a finisher card because you are doing 4 a turn if you consider your hero power. Any targeted removal that can also go face does have some burst potential. So cool design here. Probably not a constructed all-star by any means. 9 lives, Hunter Epic card, 3 mana, discover a friendly Death Rattle minion that died this game, right? So you're pretty much going to get what you wanted. Also trigger its Death Rattle. The picture, the art on the card here, it looks like it's a picture of a high main. It's probably what you're going to be doing, right? You get 2 2/2s and you get another high main in your hand for your opponent to deal with. It's kind of impossible to play this on curve, I think, although we don't have all the information yet. Probably going to save it for later. And gonna act like a sort of witching hour type card, although this has the opportunity to give you some value too, right? You're actually drawing another high main type card. The other card to look at here is the Dragon Whelp. You would get a 7/7 and then another Whelp in your hand for 3 mana. 3 mana 7/7, in fact, better than 4 mana 7/7. So 9 lives might be a mech card as well. Unleash the Beast, 6 mana twin spell. Summon a 5/5 Wyvern with Rush. Speaking of high main here, this card is very strong at 6 mana. You're getting a 5/5 removal card as well as another 5/5 removal card that you can do the next turn. The reason this can be so strong, I think, is because of high main being so good. If this card was in other classes, I think it would shine even stronger. So yeah, you're not like doing anything broken here, but you're just getting kind of a 2-for-1 twice, right? The 5/5 on turn 6 most likely going to be able to trade with something and survive, and that's a 2-for-1. And then you get another 2-for-1 the next turn. You are competing with high main, which is like a 4-for-1 or whatever, right? If you want to add it all up. So yeah, the only issue with this card is the fact that it competes with high main. Marked Shot is not a Flanking Strike replacement. It's a 4 mana spell that does 4 damage to a minion like Flanking Strike, but instead of getting a 3/3 beast on the board immediately, you are discovering a spell. So if we can break down this card, 4 damage probably costs 3 mana and Shadow Bolt, right? And then Discover a Spell is anywhere from 1 to 2 mana. So you are getting a good deal. This notably can keep discovering itself, which is pretty sweet. With cards like Unleash the Beast existing, playing Mark Shot is like value city as far as removal goes. So we're getting more and more tools for Control Hunter here. Rexar, the ultimate Control Hunter card, is leaving the format. So pretty cool design here. Not as good as Flanking Strike or maybe even Wing Shot, but I do like, even though it's a little bit boring, I do like that it opens up Hunter to something that they needed. Moving on to Mage, we're going to look at 2 1-mana spells and a card that synergizes with said spells. Ray of Frost, 1 mana twin spell, freeze a minion. If it's already frozen, deal 2 damage to it. Very versatile card here. You can use this over multiple turns. Freeze a big threat. You can use it in the same turn to have a mini Frostbolt, right? 2 mana, 2 damage freeze. Not as good as Frostbolt, but because of the synergy you get with multiple spells, it might actually be worth it. Magic Trick, discover a spell that costs 3 or less, is interesting because it can get exactly Frostbolt or Ray of Frost some good percentage of the time. And the fact that you're getting 2 spells in 1 card is important for, guess what? A synergy card here, Mana Cyclone. 2 mana, 2/2 elemental, Battlecry. For each spell you've cast this turn, add a random spell to your hand. So if you save this until, turns 5 or 6 after firing off a couple Ray of Frosts, a couple Magic Tricks, well, all of a sudden, you just filled your hand with a random spell. So the Magic Trick can't get, discovered Flame Strikes or Blizzards, but the Mana Cyclone absolutely can. So very strong card here. I believe at the very least you're going to get a couple random spells for basically free. You're just having to play a sort of understated elemental, 2 mana, 2/2. Moving on to Paladin cards, where like with Druid, we've had most of them revealed to us already, so we get a really good sense of the different themes running through the set, namely 2 secret synergies and dragons. Number 1, we're going to look at the Never Surrender secret here. When your opponent casts a spell, give your minions +2 health. Pretty powerful effect there. Very likely to counter a target of removal just for 1 mana. Also a Rattlesnake against AoE cards. The opponent's swipe might not kill anything. Their Blizzard / Flame Strike / Consecrate might not kill anything either. So for just 1 mana, this card's doing quite a bit. Does it counter Mass Hysteria? It might help. I have a feeling that Mass Hysteria is so powerful, it's just going to mean you might end up with 1 extra thing instead of nothing. But technically could counter Mass Hysteria to some extent. Does not work very well against Brawl whatsoever. We do need to note with secret synergy cards, there's no more Divine Favor with Paladin, so spewing out a bunch of maybe low quality cards like secrets and then hoping to recoup them with Divine Favor is no longer a thing you can do. So this is something to keep in mind when evaluating these cards. Although this secret's power in situations where it's insane might just mean it goes into all sorts of decks. The power of this card definitely leaks into the power of the next card, Desperate Measures. 1 mana twin spell, cast a random Paladin secret. The chance that you can get more Never Surrenders might mean this is just good enough. You don't want Eye for an Eye pretty much ever, but because you can play this twice in the same turn, you guarantee you don't get 2 Eye for an Eyes technically. We mentioned Divine Favor going away, so this has a likely chance to get Hidden Wisdom as well randomly, and that's a way to recoup your losses. So yeah, Desperate Measures. I think the power of Never Surrender means this card looks really bad, but might actually be pretty good. If this happens to work with Secret Keeper, if somehow you play Secret Keeper and Desperate Measures buff Secret Keeper twice, well, that's nuts. That's like Undertaker level of brokenness, and I don't think it will. This is worded differently than a lot of secret cards, but I don't think Blizzard will make another Undertaker mistake. I don't think so, right? We'll see. Who knows? If this does buff Secret Keeper, it's twice as strong. Commander Rissa, 3 mana 4/3. Your secrets trigger twice. Wow, that is 1 strong card. It's giving up nothing with its stat line to give you this effect. This combos so well with Never Surrender that I have a feeling that every single Paladin deck is going to need to play this with Never Surrender because the chance that you get these 2 cards together is a blowout, right? If you played a couple minions, you play the Rissa. If they try to react to your board with a spell, they get completely blown out most likely because all your minions get +4 health. The Rissa alone goes to a 4/7, which is kind of nutty on turn 3. So yeah, this card is strong with Never Surrender. I do imagine this sees tons of play. Dragons are the other synergy that Paladin have. We're going to take a look at probably the most important one, the 3 mana Bronze Herald. It's a 3/2 dragon. And it has Death Rattle. Add 2 4/4 dragons to your hand. So you get 2 4/4 dragons so this 1 card gives you 3 cards. Good luck in Arena trying to fight through these 4/4s for 4. Now in Constructed, you don't want to be really playing a 3 mana 3/2. You don't really want to be playing a 4 mana 4/4, but you could and not be embarrassed. I think this is sort of like a replacement for Divine Favor in an aggro deck. Possibly, obviously in a control deck, it's a very grindy card. And you don't actually give that much up on turn 3 to play this. It still has 3 attack. It could have been a 2/2 and have been a perfectly fine card because it also has the dragon tag. So yeah, this is a really strong card. Might just be in every deck because it really just gives you so much for just one card. The tempo is not good, but you just get so much for one. You get 2 cards and they're like playable cards, right? They're 4 mana 4/4s and they're dragon. Kind of hard to not play this, I think, right? So what are you going to do with these new dragons in your hand? Well, how about play Dragon Speaker? 5 mana 3/5. Give all dragons in your hand +3/+3. So you go from 4 mana 4/4 to 4 mana 7/7. Seems good. I don't love the design here just because it's kind of like just an obvious thing. You just throw the Bronze Herald in your deck. Probably because you're always going to put Bronze Herald in your deck. It just gives you so much for 3 mana. And because you just randomly have these 4/4 dragons running around, well, play a Dragon Speaker or 2. So yeah, it's not my favorite type of design because it's just like obvious, but I do think this is gonna happen. You're gonna have to deal with these 4 mana 7/7s. The other Paladin legendary is a dragon, Nazari, 10 mana 4/12 dragon. It says battlecry restore both heroes to full health. Wow, so we get a Reno Jackson here without doing any work besides, getting to 10 mana, which isn't that easy all the time, to be fair. Reno could save you for sure against hyper-aggressive decks. This will not save you against a hyper-aggressive deck, but it is a pretty strong control tool because what it does do is almost guarantee you will not die the next turn you play this. Just because of board size issues your opponent might have, it can be hard for your opponent to just nail you for 30, which is 1 turn. And if you can live for 1 turn, then you can start setting up cards like Timeout. So pretty strong card here. Almost a 3rd ice block for Paladin going forward. And they might be scared of the sort of Shivali combo. We do see a lot of things that answer that card specifically, whether it's drawing minions from your hand, drawing minions from your deck, or sort of blocking spells from hitting you in the face the next turn. So pretty strong control tool here. Gotta imagine this sees play because it will save you and let you set up some nasty stuff. Duel, very cool design card here. 5 mana, summon a minion from each player's deck. They attack each other. We just talked about combo. Well, this is a way to break up said combos. You pull out your opponent's Shivala or their Mecha'thun early, they might not be able to beat you with it. Now, if you pull out your opponent's Malygos early, you better be able to deal with it, I imagine. Interesting card here, again, because it is half a recruit card, half a combo breaker-upper. That's a thing. So yeah, I like the design here a lot. Call to Adventure, 3 mana, draw the lowest cost minion from your deck, then give it +2/+2. Prince Kelseth did just leave the standard environment, so that's the first thing that came to mind for probably most people. Can't do that one. We do get to draw our Immortal Prelates out of our deck and go ahead and start them on the buffing train. That's pretty cool. This is a little bit hard, a little bit awkwardly costed. It is expensive. You're playing a 3-drop that doesn't affect the board to get probably a 2-drop, which you have to figure out how to play on turn 4. So a little bit awkward there. In Wild, you can do things like pulling out Echoing Ooze, which we might try. But yeah, it looks like it's a card to try to get your Immortal Prelate chain going. Moving on to Priest cards. First up, we have Evil Conscriptor, 2 mana 2/2 Death Rattle. Add a Lackey to your hand. The Priest Lackey card looks to be one of the stronger ones. You're getting the Lackey almost for free. You're just paying the 1 health from your 2-drop, which seems like a pretty good deal. Shadowy Figure, on the other hand, is a more interesting 2/2 for 2. It's a Battlecry, transform into a 2/2 copy of a friendly Death Rattle minion. Pretty hard to throw this down on turn 2. I guess you have the Mecharoo. That's the one I can think of in standard right now. We lose quite a bit of Death Rattle synergy stuff, namely the quest and among other things. So probably this is worse than a Mirage Collar, right? A Mirage Collar can copy anything into a 1/1. If it's a Death Rattle, even better. This one can only target Death Rattle minions. Once you get to 8 mana, there are some, powerful quote plays to play. You can, copy a something like a Mechanical Whelp or Cairn Bloodhoof. You're paying 2 mana for a very strong Death Rattle. Not sure that's something that you should be doing, but technically it is a strong card with enough mana. Mass Resurrection is a 9 mana priest spell that summons 3 minions that died this game. So we're definitely losing points for creativity here. What do we say about this card? Well, I guess it's a pretty good follow-up to the Gallery. Notably, this doesn't say 3 different minions. I think one of the strengths of Spellstone was you couldn't get unlucky with it and summon maybe 2 Northshire Clerics or 2 Tar Creepers, right? You're probably going to get 1 small thing and then 3 big things if you fully upgrade it. This one, you have a chance, if you're playing cards like, Northshire Cleric in your deck, to draw well, or to summon 2 Northshire Clerics. And that's not ideal for your 9 mana spell. Katrina Muerte is the other legendary for Priest. It's an 8 mana 6/8. At the end of your turn, summon a friendly minion that died this game. So that's a pretty damn good deal for just 8 mana, right? You're getting a pretty big body, pretty hard to kill, much like Kel'Thuzad. And unlike Kel'Thuzad, you don't actually have to do anything the turn you play her to get immediate value. If you're getting a taunt from this thing, maybe something crazy like Damage Stegodon, anything that like wants to be resurrected like a Witchwood Grizzly is very strong with this card. If it has taunt, all the better to protect your Katrina for multiple turns. Very strong card. So that's going to draw part 2 of my Rise of the Shadows set review to a close. We'll be back tomorrow with part 3, and we're getting really close to the big card dump. So expect parts 4 and 5 around the corner very soon. If you guys agree or disagree with anything I went over today, feel free to comment below. Again, I never take offense. See you guys later.